What's up fellow collectors, Jim Collector here, back again with another unboxing and review. Today we are checking out the hotly anticipated Lord Starkiller, aka Galen Marek from the Force Unleashed video game series. So straight up, I only ever played the first Force Unleashed game back in the Xbox 360 days, but oh my, that game was fantastic. And it was the first Star Wars game I ever really enjoyed and properly got invested in. But enough of the chit chat guys, let's sit back, relax and unbox some figures. Alright, and here we have Lord Starkiller himself, and it says Legends, and again we've got that nice video game logo down here. Would like to see that a little bit more. Hot Toys, come on, expand your video game line, please, beyond just Star Wars and Spider-Man. There's so many great IPs I think that they could go into. But anyway, back to the actual unboxing. Really nice artwork here, photo of the figure there and there. More of the normal Star Wars wraparound with this kind of card logo here that normally gets bent out from it. All of the kind of Star Wars information on the background, the nice shiny Disney logo that we've got accustomed to, and that's pretty much it. What I'm excited to see is the inlay. I do love a good inlay, and this one is no joke. It looks really nice. Again, I think this is just a photo of the figure, which is really good because that looks super realistic. But we slide that off, and then here we have our first look at all the bits and pieces. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this off. Oh, there we go. And let's have a quick look at this tray of accessories, because this comes with more than I actually expected it to come with. So firstly, you've got hands, so you don't get a lot of hands, similar to what we had with Revan. You didn't get a lot of hands with Revan as well. They are nicely done, I'll give you that. They got nice material look throughout. They do look like actual gloves. Really good sculpt work. These are quite sharp. They are plastic, so they do bend, so be careful on these that you don't break them or cut yourself, because these points are quite gnarly. But these are very nice. So you have this gesturing hand, and then I believe this is a lightsaber holding hand, as is, if I can get it out, as is this one. So you've got two lightsaber holding hands. These look really unwieldy. And then a Force gesturing hand here as well. And then of course you've got the hands on the figures, which I believe are relaxed hands. We'll see soon. But here we have various lightsaber hilts, which is really interesting to see. So here's the main Starkiller lightsaber here. So that is a really nicely done hilt. Similar with Revan, good paint apps here. It does look quite nice. It's got that kind of same motif that the entire figure has, and it has that kind of pointy ends there. But it's a really nice looking blade. Of course, you do have its wide counterpart, but then we have all of these other blades in here as well, all of which look pretty interesting. So we have this lightsaber blade right here. I don't recognize this saber at all, to be honest with you. It's a pretty plain looking one. It's not something that would really stand out, but of course you do have that one. Then you have this saber here. Is this Starkiller's saber from the first game? I can't remember. It might be, because it's very reminiscent of Darth Vader. Then of course you do have this saber hilt here. I quite like this saber hilt. It's quite unique. It kind of gives me like a Kashyyyk vibe. Like this could be a Wookiee's saber, so that's quite nice to see. Then of course these two, you do of course have half a Darth Maul saber. That's pretty awesome. And then this Darth Vader saber hilt as well. And these two are actually connected together, and then you can connect them onto the belt using this little thingamajig as well. You can connect all of these to Starkiller, so that's going to be quite interesting to see later on. But it is worth noting that you do only get the one USB powered saber, which is a bit of a disappointment. I would have liked to see all of them being USB, but maybe that's too much of an ask. Alright, and here we have Lord Starkiller. Now I'm actually going to wait till the end to go through the figure. Let's get the blades out the way. So we do have our red, almost dropped it, red swooshing blades that we've seen in every Star Wars Sith or Jedi release, and then you get two of these static blades as well, this one here, and the other one is next to it. I'm just not going to try and fish that out of the box. You then do get the normal USB hub, that's what I'm going to call this, so you can light up the saber hilt, the one that you get. Underneath here, we don't have much else. We do just have a base. Let's have a quick look at the base. I'm pretty sure this is exactly the same as the one that came with Revan. And yeah, it is exactly the same. You've got the plastic, the metal grating, talk about that. The metal grating on top, obviously this comes off. And then you see it says Lord Starkiller Legends in brackets as well. It's a nice base, it's serviceable. At least it does go with Revan, so they work as a pair. So that is pretty much it here. Now this is the set without the coin. It's worth noting, so I don't have any limited edition coins, but that's okay by me. And here we have Starkiller. First impressions, this guy is awesome. I actually like him a bit more than when I pre-ordered him. I won't lie, so when I pre-ordered these, I was more excited for Revan. I will give you that, but the more I look at this, getting caught on that, the more I look at this, the more I absolutely adore it. So it is that kind of new material. So the first thing I talk about is the material of the suit. So I believe this is that new material that we're going to start seeing on various Darth Vaders, because it doesn't feel like a straight up pleather, but I could be wrong. But it sounds more like a, I don't know what kind of material that is. It reminds me of like a rain jacket or something like that. That's what this kind of material feels like, but that should be good in terms of longevity. Hopefully he won't degrade on us too quickly. The mask is really awesome. You've got lots of battle damage and wear and tear marks all over it. It is all plastic, there's no die cast on this. Some of these bits like here do feel like they might break a bit easily if he has a fall, so make sure when you display him, you probably do want to use a stand for this. You'd hate for that plastic bit there to snap off, but he looks absolutely incredible. Really like the armor here, and of course you've got his Padawan style braid coming down the side. This is all molded plastic. You've got the hair coming out here. It's not their best molded hair, I won't lie, but you do just kind of forget it's there. It's not on any sort of wire, so don't bend this around. It just kind of hangs down there, but the detailing on the suit is absolutely fantastic. Really liking this piece here, which does wrap around the entire body, as you can see. So it wraps around into this part here. So this is all fixed, but it's not part of the actual suit. But yeah, that's awesome. I mean, look at that there. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Mobility wires, a few things to note. Just be careful when you're posing of these wires, because I think they could easily break, but he's got relatively good articulation there. These move quite nicely as you lift up the arms, so you don't get any real issues here on the armor, so that's quite nice. You do then of course have a double bend on that arm, and I believe you've got good, slightly limited range of motion here going forwards. That's about as far as I really want to push it. Double bend on that knee, so you get pretty much all you want from that as well. And of course you do have a good split cut boot, so you get good range of motion through the ankle, which is nice to see. It's also worth noting that there is wires in this lower part of his outfit here, so you can have these flex around. This is something that I found a bit disappointing on Revan, is that it didn't have wires throughout his kind of skirt area down below, so when you were doing more dynamic poses it didn't work. Is there a wire? And there is wire in this back one as well, but it's only a short wire, and it comes to about here. Then there's no wire in this bit here, so that will kind of flap around and not look so good. But it is a really nice looking suit. I do have to admit that I like it. But guys, that's it for now. What we're going to do is we're going to get him posed up, and we'll look at the details in a bit more detail. Catch you in a sec. Okay, so this figure is impressing me a lot more than I expected. Is it perfect? Not quite, but honestly, I really don't have many complaints about this one. Hot Toys really have made a solid figure, and honestly, as a figure, I rate this higher than their other recent release, which is Darth Revan, which I really didn't expect to happen at all. One thing to highlight is the split cut boots. Sure, this is nothing new, but they are done really well. You get a ton of articulation in the ankle, and the joints feel really stiff, making walking poses much easier to pull off and balance. Next you have the belt. This is so easy to assemble. The instructions show that you should remove the belt from the figure, attach the trophy sabers and then put the belt back on the figure. This is easy to do as it's just fastened with some velcro, but I didn't bother to even take it off and I just slot the sabers on the belt whilst it was on the figure. And the sabers really add a lot to this piece and they look great hanging from his belt. The back piece from his armour is beautifully detailed. Here it looks like one piece, but the initial spinal looking bit is part of the wraparound armour on his torso on a friction fit, and then the upper device that feeds up to his neck is directly attached to the suit material. Really lovely paint applications, the silver and red really pop nicely on this piece. Suit is also really nice, thank god they haven't used pleather. Hopefully this will be a material we won't have to worry about flaking over time. Only thing I'll say is when posing, be careful with trying any ab crunch in case this hard plastic bit of armour causes some damage by rubbing the suit material really well, but the suit details are really impressive and I like how this has turned out. Arms wise, the wiring coming out of his right arm feels like it may break easily, but it is a softer plastic with some give and it isn't too brittle. Now the gnarly bladed hands on this do look really nice, however they are very fiddly. I do worry that the blades will prove easy to break over time, but also makes swapping out hands a bit of an ordeal because they're really sharp. I actually managed to cut my finger when I was swapping these out. The shoulder armour is really nicely done. There's lots of dents and scratches throughout as you can see, and because the shoulder armour isn't connected to the armour on his traps, you're still able to get some good articulation in those shoulders, so that really opens up our options when posing this piece. Finally, we have the head sculpt, or I guess it's a helmet sculpt really. It's a shame we don't get a Galen Merrick sculpt, and that's perhaps the biggest disappointment about this figure. However, the helmet is done really well. There's lots of detail with some scratches and pitting showing that it's well worn and heavily used. I really like the menacing design here, and it gives off a very strong Sith vibe, which makes this a really standout figure. Even if you don't know who this guy is, I think people are going to be attracted to this and ask you more about it. Right, time to check out some poses. Now despite all my talk about articulation, I decided to go for a very museum pose for pose number 1. And this is probably my favourite pose of the 3 that I've done for this video. So straight up, the stiff ankles on this made posing this and balancing it so damn easy. He hasn't fallen over once whatsoever, so I really do rate this. I feel like the material is pretty durable on this, but if you want a pose that ensures longevity but also put some life into the figure, then a good walking pose is always a solid option, and he just looks like a badass here and pretty intimidating. If I saw him coming my way, I would definitely get the hell out of there. Moving on to pose number 2, and I'm going to call this pose my stalker pose. Now he has both lightsabers activated and he is stalking his victim, ready to take them down, likely for the glory of the Empire. Again, I'm not putting this figure into too dynamic a pose. I don't know, maybe when I was filming this I was just clearly in the mood for some stoic menacing style poses when I was shooting this video. Anyway, one thing to note, Starkiller is known for dual wielding his lightsabers. The figure comes with his Sith lightsaber, which is fine, but for his second saber, you do have to use one of the hilts from his belt. Now, this isn't necessarily an issue at all really, but bear in mind you can't remove the chunky clip from the sabers that you use to attach them to the belt, so be careful that you don't snap that off when you're putting it into the hand, because that is a real risk. And with pose number 3, Starkiller is now ready for battle, and this is where I started to feel the limitations of the nylon suit to a certain degree anyway. Now, the movement around his shoulders, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is perfectly fine, but you can't get his legs much wider than this, especially without putting a lot of strain on the seam of the trousers of his suit. This is pretty much pushed to the max. I do worry that you'd be tearing some of the stitching work if you pushed it much further. Also, you have pretty much zero ab crunch due to the armor, which prevents that kind of a movement. This limits your options somewhat, especially with any sort of fighting like crouching poses that you may want to do. I mean, to be fair, that's partly due to the character design and not completely down to Hot Toys, but it's definitely worth noting. Finally, I didn't think this review would be complete without displaying Starkiller next to his master, Darth Vader. Honestly, if I was to pose these two together, I probably wouldn't go for the battle damaged helmet on this, but I was a bit lazy to switch it out. And although saying that, they do fight in the game, so this could work quite nicely. And they do display really well together, especially thematically with their suit designs. And here he is next to Darth Revan. Now, despite being from completely different stories within Star Wars lore, these are technically from the same figure series by Hot Toys, so you might definitely have them displayed together. They look really good side by side. Darth Revan is also a solid release, but he's let down a fair bit by that god-awful hood. And I have to admit, after seeing them side by side, I can definitely confirm that for me, figure-wise, Starkiller is the better release. Right, verdict time, and as I said, this release impressed me way more than I expected. It feels like Hot Toys put some real care into this, and they made a quality figure. Honestly, I couldn't find a lot to complain about. Sure, it would be nice to have a Galen Marek head sculpt, and the ab crunch did definitely spoil some of the pose ideas that I had for this figure, but the positives definitely outweigh the negatives for me. So for a final score, I'm easily giving this an 8 out of 10. This release definitely exceeded my expectations on what I thought would be a phone-in release from Hot Toys. So guys, that's it for this review. If you stuck around this long, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. Jim Collector out.